Is Omori considered mascot horror? It's a question I randomly started asking myself about a month ago. I've had this video planned for about 2 weeks now as I am writing this, so I am here to finally answer the question and dive straight into, is Omori mascot horror? So, to start off is the evidence for this idea. Wait a minute. Some viewers may have never heard of Omori. Well, I guess we will cover that first. Omori is an indie psychological horror game developed by Omocat and her team. The game follows Sunny's alter ego Omori in Headspace looking for his friend Basil. We figure out quickly that this is a fake world developed for Sunny to cope with the death of his sister. More on that later. The game also has real-life sections where you deal with the trauma head-on and reunite with your friends and resolve conflicts. If you want a better, not shortened explanation, I'd recommend checking out a different video after this one, because I had to shorten it down for time's sake. Anyway, now that you know what the game actually is, let's get into the actual content of the video. So by now, if you clicked on this video, you most likely know what mascot horror is. If not, please just Google it quickly. I've done enough explanations for my personal liking. But please come back after Googling it. Anyways, the yeses. Omori has a very cute art style that can make you feel safe and comfortable, and then just switch it up in this environment is a perfect example of psychological horror, not the one talking about the mental illnesses that this game also has. I'm talking about psychological horror as in scaring the player in a way that doesn't involve visuals. You know, like the feeling when you just think something's off, aka just the atmosphere. This type of horror is used a lot throughout this game and is the main contributor to the scares I've actually had in it. Another key example to the psychological horror is the dark underlying story. Behind the colorful facade, this game's main world Headspace takes on is a tragic, scary, and traumatic story, like Mari's death. And when I figured out about Mari's death, I was shook. It was crazy in my mind that 12-year-olds did that. Moving on from psychological horror is the game's mascot, Omori. He serves as this game's mascot as being plastered on everything promotional, and he is what you think of when someone says something about the game, as well as Aubrey, Kel, and Hero in Headspace, all looking and acting like cartoon characters, and their adventures are cartoony. Take the Humphrey the Whale mission as an example. You literally get eaten by a whale. That's something straight out of Pinocchio. To be fair, the name of the game is Omori, and you know him being the main focus is also similar to some other familiar games having their mascots in the name. The last piece of evidence is all of the merch. This game has a lot of merch. Now, I know this technically can't really count because a lot of indie developers of really anything use merch to profit things, although I thought I would include it, because it's something that stood out to me that also aligned with mascot horror. I mean, basically right after the game launched, all the characters got turned into plushies and were sold on the website. You know, this also seems similar to other games. FNAF and Poppy Playtime also have lots of merch on their respective websites. Well, FNAF doesn't have its own website, but Poppy Playtime does. So, some people could argue Omori is not a mascot horror game. Although I used psychological horror as evidence earlier, I meant atmosphere. This game is heavily focused on the main definition of it, mental health. Also, heavy trigger warning, we will be discussing heavy topics such as trauma, depression, suicide, and more. So skip to this time in the video to avoid this sensitive topic. Anyway, back to the video. Omori deals with the trauma of Sunny's sister, Mari's death, after Sunny pushes her down the stairs due to an argument over his violin lessons, and they end up taking her body to the backyard and framing her death as a suicide by hanging her with a jump rope. This is usually not something discussed in the traditional mascot horror game. Traditional mascot horror games usually rely on shock value and jump scares, and yes, Omori has some, but it isn't the main horror element. Another example is it was, well, never intended to be one. The game got its first trailer before Five Nights at Freddy's, and these characters just started as Omocat's OCs. Then they got turned into a game. Although Five Nights at Freddy's wasn't made to be a mascot horror game, it birthed the genre and now is the face of it. However, the full game of Omori didn't release until 2020, so it is still hypothetically possible. In conclusion, is Omori a mascot horror game? Well, it shares some characteristics with the genre. Its unique blend of psychological horror and heartfelt storytelling sets it apart. Ultimately, whether you classify it as a mascot horror or not is your choice. Omori is a captivating and thought-provoking game that deserves recognition for its innovative approach to storytelling and its ability to evoke strong emotions through this traumatic story. Let me know what your standpoint on this argument is. Is Omori mascot horror or not? Also, I would like to do more Omori content, so if this video does well, I'll make more. But besides, I already have one more video planned for this year. So anyways, thanks for watching. I put a lot of time and effort into writing the script, editing, and really doing everything else, so honestly, if this video just ends up getting 100 views, I'll be happy. I know I put a lot of effort in, even if others don't believe so. I know that I did so. Also, subscribe because I would absolutely love to reach 300 subscribers before the end of the year. With that, here is a quick teaser for the next long-form video.